Hello guys, this is Lizzie and welcome to the video. This video would be one in a series that I would like to call How to Play Beginner Series. The series aims to provide character builds that can serve as a solid foundation for later development in the later stages and levels of the game. In light of that, this series would be showcasing the builds, features that are accessible to players in the early stages of the game, specifically those who are in levels between 1 to 50. Also, we hope to provide an easy to follow, step-by-step breakdown on how to mechanically use a certain character build, so that players, especially those new to the character class, can know how to start playing a certain class. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Now today, we'll be talking about the road, specifically the flurry road. I chose this of the twisting blade variety because mainly of two reasons. One, I find that the flurry road strikes a good balance between skill and satisfying gameplay. Now you need a bit of skill to be able to use this build properly. But if you're able to do that, it will reward you with a satisfying array of dead monsters around. Now, second reason I have is because I've always liked the archetype of the shadowy, dark assassin. And this build emulates and fits that archetype really well. So now let's get into the build specifics. Now let's start by looking at the abilities that we'll be using from the skill tree. Now, since I will be just showing you a screenshot of the abilities, it will be up to you to find where those nodes are in the skill tree. But if you read carefully the modifiers, that should be enough to help you find those nodes. Now, the theme of this build is crowd control and close melee DPS. Now, you can put other focuses in this build as you rise up in levels, but those are the two main ones. I also put in an emphasis on critical strike chance, since it multiplies the close melee DPS that we will be investing in anyway. Now, as the name implies, the mainstay of this build is the Flurry core ability. But don't let the name fool you because the puncture basic ability is almost equally as important. These two, used in conjunction with each other, form the base damage cycle that this build uses. So the way it works is you jump in, you flurry, you take care of the stragglers with puncture, then you jump out. Or you puncture, you jump in, you flurry, you jump out. That's the basic mechanical cycle of how you use this build. Now, if you look at flurry, um, we have the modifiers that give us life when we hit CC target, as well as the one that helps us uh, stun them when we evade. So the stunning part gives consistency to our crowd control theme. And of course, we want to be able to get something as we're dealing damage. In my case, I like getting life or resource as I'm dealing damage. Now for our puncture, we get energy when we hit a crowd control enemy. That's one of the modifiers. And also we have the modifier that makes puncture ricochet. We also like that because ricochets uh, helps us have more opportunities to proc our other damage mechanics or whatever damage mechanic that you will be adding to this build along the way. The main thing is the more times that we hit, which will be enhanced by ricochets, then the more chances we can have to proc. The next ability that we'll be using is Shadow Step because it provides both mobility and damage dealing. Its modifiers are damaging an enemy with Shadow Step increases your critical strike chance. Also, the enemies damaged by Shadow Step are stunned for 2 seconds. So that contributes to our theme of crowd control, providing further consistency to our build. Then the next one is Shadow Imbuement. Now, I chose imbuements because I wanted to diversify our damage portfolio. meaning I want to deal more than one type of damage. And I chose Shadow specifically because it spreads and explodes, much like the exploding palm of the monk class in D3, which also really like. The shadow imbuements modifiers that I chose is the one that you have 15% increased critical strike chance, again, uh, contributing to that focus on increasing our critical strike chance. And also, examine enemies infected by shadow imbuement take more damage. So we want to emphasize that the damage that we deal that is non-physical. I also chose exploit because it says here that we deal increased damage to healthy and injured enemies. If you think about it, all enemies are healthy when at first you meet them. And if you deal damage to them enough, they'll either be dead or injured. So this provides a near 100% boost, 100% consistent boost to the damage that we deal. Now, to round out our set of skills is the Shadow Clone Ultimate and Close Quarters Combat key passive. Now, I won't be reading all of this since you also can read them, but just give a short description of what they are and why I chose them. Now, I chose Shadow Clone as our ultimate because I want this build to be able to deal with high HP single targets. And your Shadow Clone will deal damage to the same target you do. There's none other available. Now, Close Quarters Combat is perfect and synergizes well with our Flurry and Puncture since they are respectively a cutthroat and marksman type of skill, which is needed for these bonuses to kick in, for the bonuses that this passive has to kick in. Now, the adrenaline rush and impetus are chosen because I want to be able to have more utility in our movement since you need to move anyways, might as well get resources or at least increase energy regeneration and increase damage for the effort that we need to do anyways in moving. Now the aftermath is there so that we can have a partial refund at least when we use our ultimate, so that we can perpetuate further in a longer or damage cycle. Now, as for aspects and items that we need, there are just two legendary aspects and one unique item that are non-essentials for this build. Now, the one of the aspects is the one that makes our flurry omnidirectional. Now, that beautifully enhances our flurry because it will now hit more enemies and deal more damage. Also, the second aspect enables our clones to also mimic the imbuements that we use. Again, further increasing the damage that we already have invested in. So our imbuement is now used by two sources instead of one. As for the item, what we need is Mother's Embrace. Now let's focus on this feature, its main feature. It says that if a core skill hits 5 or more enemies, up to 40% of the resource cost is refunded. So this is amazing because now our flurry hits in 360 angle, which means it will more consistently satisfy that condition. So we will have that loop of flurry and then refunding the cost, flurry, refunding part of the cost. It will enable us to do more flurries and thus deal more damage. Now I'll be showing you a demo on how to use the skills that we talked about in this build. I'm looking for a mob that can be a candidate target. So remember, what we'll be doing is imbue, jump in, flurry, then jump out. Those are the steps. Imbue, flurry, imbue, jump in, flurry, then jump out. So look at how we do it. First, I imbue. As you can see, the shadow step has this purple tinge to it, meaning that it can be imbued if you use it. That it will be imbued by shadow if you use it. Now, I jump in and deal damage by a shadow step. And then do my flurry. Now, you notice there were secondary explosions. That's because of the shadow effect, of the effect of the shadow ability that we have, wherein it explodes and then spreads. Then, I jump out, or in this case, jump to another target, which was a ranged damage dealer, and repeat the process. Or if there were none of them left, that part could have been me jumping out. But in this case, I jumped out from one part of the map to another to take care of the range damage dealers. Why? Because it's important to take care of the range damage dealers because we heal when we hit melee targets. So there's no problem with us being surrounded by melee targets unless they're really are dealing us a very high amount of damage. But what we should be worried about are those that deals damage from afar because this build does not have a regenerative mechanic for range damage dealers. So we want to take them out first. And then the stragglers we take care of by using puncture, the ranged option that puncture provides. So that's where puncture comes in, as well as refilling our damage. So we're going to be looking for another target. So let's do that. Okay, so I think I find my next batch candidate. So again, in view, as you can see, there's that my view mix and countdown is in cooldown. Then my shadow step was purple, and then I used it to jump. In this case, the jump was just short, but I still used it because it delivers damage. And then I flurry. Then afterwards, I move out. Again, after moving out, making sure that I'm ready, I jump in, do the flurry, and then again move out. Or if I can survive it, I keep flurrying or do puncture. So that's basically how I use this build. So thanks for dropping by the video. If you like this content, please subscribing and liking this video and subscribing to my channel. And that's it for now. And thank you again for dropping by and see you in the next one.